Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? What's up, Ramley? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. Thank you, as always, for making us a part of your day. Hope everyone had a lovely weekend. The heat is finally coming to the Southland. It's going to be a warm week. 80s all week, I saw. Sunshine. It was a weird weekend where it was cloudy and chilly. You know, we got to do our weather report. That's what we do you might as well call us the Rams weather report also, because that's what we give every show. Kind of a weird, kind of gloomy, if you will, weekend. Felt kind of nice. I enjoy that weather actually, but hey, now we're getting sunshine. 80s. I think Wednesday is a high of like 89, so almost touching 90 out here in towards more the valley in North LA. But can't complain. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome in my co-hosts, Ryan Skinny T Anderson. What's up, my man? I know you love the heat, so how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Spending the weekend outside was fantastic in the nice weather. Shout out to Lawless Brewery out over there in Toluca Lake, North Hollywood area.
Nice.
If you're in LA, definitely check them out. Good brews in a cool space. It's they're popping up all over the place. I can't believe how many different kinds of beers you can have driving across town.
Oh yeah,
no, not driving, Ubering.
Yes, catching rideshare across town,
Yeah.
horse-drawn carriages across LA. But yeah, breweries aplenty here. I've discovered this one. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on the name. This tiny little one here in Pasadena that is like, it's literally like in a neighborhood. Really good though. And they do, they have like a food truck, a little, I want to say it's like an El Salvadorian food truck or something right outside of it. But we went there after one of Mia's soccer practices, and it was a really cool, tiny, it's basically a little like warehouse. They rented out and turned into a brewery.
That's really cool. Yeah, if you guys have out there listeners, if you have any favorites, let us know. We're always looking for partnerships and free beer. So
Yeah, that's usually how it works. Breweries don't shell out a ton of money, but they're willing to give free beer, which hey, I'm always fine with to give a shout out. So I'm trying to before I want to find the name of this brewery. What's like your favorite one that you like frequenting, if I can speak?
Well, I have a special place in my heart for Golden Road.
Yeah.
I mean that there was one in Glendale, real close to my workplace. When I was working out in Glendale, and that's a great one. They have several locations. Man, I don't know. It's not a brewery, but I end up at the Greyhound a lot. 2 locations, Glendale and Highland Park. Actually, you know what? My favorite one, it's kind of an off-site one. They have Highland Park Brewery, which is downtown LA, and then they have a kind of an outpost in Highland Park, which has a great patio area, and the bar itself is really cool. And rotating drafts, and yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, Highland Park Brewery.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, Golden Road's great. LA staple. Like, I know some people don't love them anymore because they've like gone corporate, after being bought by Anheuser-Busch. But there's still, they started here in LA. Like, they were a local flavor. Gotta love Golden Road. They do a cool, like, on Monday they turned their little speakeasy into like a co-working space that I've checked out before. So that's kind of fun out there at the Glendale location. So this one in Pasadena I found is Cerveceria del Pueblo is the name of it. But yeah, great beers, tiny little warehouse in the middle of a neighborhood. Cool spot. So I'll have to show it to you. Check it out.
Yeah, definitely have to check that out.
Independent brewery, tap room, Mexican eatery right here in Pasadena. Wild Parrot is another one here in Pasadena, down in Colorado, which is kind of cool. I'm actually going tonight. Run Club Doghouse here in Pasadena.
Oh yeah, a Run
have
Club.
Some local beers there. Yeah, I'm gonna get my fitness on. So anyway, any breweries you guys have out there? Any LA breweries that you want to check out? We've done shows at breweries too. We've done shows at Golden Road. We've done shows at the Stone Tap Room. Here we did a live USC show there. So we love partnering with local breweries to do shows at, meet and greets, watch parties. So please, we'd love to set stuff up for the season. So whatever you guys love, I'm not even saying we're the main event, but we'd love to come just hang out with you and talk football and drink some beer. So comment down if you're on YouTube. Rams LAFB is the YouTube channel. You can hit us up on Twitter at RL Anderson LAFB, at Ryan Dyrud LAFB, or at LAFB Network is the main account. Drop us a line. Let us know. So today's show, here we are, June, 4th?
Yep.
The true offseason. OTAs are going on. So there'll be some stuff later today coming out from OTAs, but not a lot. There's not a lot going on. So we are dedicating this episode. We are calling it the Rams news dump truck. Basically just going to a smorgasbord of storylines from LAFB Network that we have covered or talked about on the website. And we'll bring it all to you here on a platter, on a beautiful silver-laden platter of Rams news dump truck. So, Skinny, anything else you want to get into before any other weather talk before we just actually get to the meat of the show?
No, bring the heat, man. I'm ready for the sunshine. I need my LA summer.
There we go.
And
well, okay.
people,
First,
yeah, go ahead.
First, the charcuterie board. Show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Bet on any sport available. They got them all. We got the hot dog eating contest coming up here in a month. 1 month from today, July 4th. You can bet on that. It's pretty easy to decide who the winner is going to be, but you can throw some money on that. But obviously, NHL, Stanley Cup playoffs, Edmonton and Florida. It'll be the most traveled Stanley Cup playoff ever, going from Sunrise, Miami area to Edmonton, Canada, back and forth. NBA finals are set, Dallas and Boston. Should be a good series as well. So you can bet on all that. You can bet on futures for NFL, Rams, betting odds to win the Super Bowl. All of it can be done at betonline.ag. Tell them the guys at the Rams Skinny and LAFB sent you. So first story to get into today, Ryan. Zach Bryan, great artist. Outlaw country. I'm big in outlaw country right now. It's just fun. It's a little more twangy, a little slower. It's great to work to. Like I'll throw it on in the background. I'm trying to get some articles cranked out. So Zach Bryan's one of the biggest. I don't even know what the kids say this day, but he's really popular. So he has had a performance at Crypto. Still feels weird calling it Crypto.com arena, but at Crypto. And during one of his songs, if we're sticking with the theme here, smorgasbord of LA football players joined him on stage. First off, I thought it was very cool. There was both Rams and Chargers, kind of like really embracing LA football. I mean, you had Justin Herbert, you had Cameron Dicker, and then on the Rams, then there's more. But then on the Rams, you have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, all hanging out on stage right here at the hub of LA, Crypto.com, LA Live. I mean, what other city do you get that? I mean, how cool was that? And you put a story up on it, but how cool was that to see?
Yeah, super cool. I wrote a little article about it. I forgot to include the kicker, the former Ram and current Charger kicker, the Dicker the kicker. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. We've seen Puka Nacua kind of partner with Cooper Kupp very closely on the field, learning from him, taking Cooper Kupp taking him under his wing. But they're out and about everywhere. They're out at a Lakers game when Kobe Turner's singing the national anthem not long ago. Now they're at a alt country concert downtown. So I think he's kind of like this social glue guy that's bringing these maybe introverted Cooper Kupp and Justin Herbert out into the world and getting. So the song itself is called Revival, which I'm not familiar with this guy's work, but I really dig this song. It's a lot of fun, and it was the encore performance. And apparently Luke Bryan brings out Luke Bryan.
Zach Bryan.
Zach Bryan.
Luke Bryan will be performing at the Forum in a month, which I will actually be at. So anyway.
Oh, nice. Congrats. But yeah, this is a big number for him. It's his encore number. He's on the Quitting Time tour right now, his 2024 tour. Hard at work, working his way across the country. But he brings people out. He had Sexy Red, who I also don't know, but she was indeed sexy and red from the pictures I saw, come out for one of the encore performances, but also guys like Bruce Springsteen. So kind of apparently I gotta keep an eye out for this music, but I dig this song a lot. And I dig seeing, a guy like Puka Nacua getting the rest of these guys all psyched up and out there at the concert, coming out on stage and kind of singing the last verse of this song.
Yeah. No, this is not to belabor it, but this is like what the Rams need, right? Because this town, there's a lot, and we are the biggest proponents of like football fans in LA and Rams fans specifically. Like we are always going to bat for Rams fans, and the national media, I think, is ridiculous, but the storylines or the narratives they have. But I don't think it's any, and I think Rams fans would agree. I would hope that this is still a Lakers and Dodgers town, and you could even, if you go on football hierarchy, probably put USC football at the top. And then you could even go with like soccer is huge now. LAFC has really taken over the LA sports world, especially with just the Latin culture here in LA and whatnot. So the Rams, obviously are the number one pro team here in LA, continually growing fan base. They have a history here, but it's still an uphill climb. It's still not to where it needs to be and not where it will be. It's going to keep growing. But the way you expedite that, besides winning, which they already did, winning the Super Bowl almost too quickly, but the other way you get that is you need to get these players recognizable with fans and just regular people in LA. And football, what's a little different. If you're not like Tom Brady or these guys that are in every commercial, the Peyton Mannings of the world on Nationwide, Aaron Rodgers and all that. Like if you're not that, it's harder for football because you're in pads, you got the helmet on. It's not as just recognizable on the streets. And so the Rams need situations like this where it's like, oh, there could have been at this Zach Bryan concert, 90% of the audience, most country people do like football, but let's just for the sake of argument, say a vast majority were not football fans or Rams fans. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like these great Rams players are up on stage, having a good time, really enjoying the LA life. So, it's probably, obviously doesn't matter at all actually in the wins and loss columns of football, but in terms of Rams growth in LA, things like these, events like these, I think are very important. The Rams do like a Rams Day at LA Kings games. They do a Rams Day at Laker games and stuff like that, which I think is big. But this now brings in, aside from sport, LA culture. And so if they can do more stuff with like Hollywood and red carpets and stuff like that, it's only going to grow their brand, grow these players' mantra within the LA landscape. And so all of that, I think, is all great. It's fun to see. And to your point, Cooper Kupp is, I think, not just a great player, great person, whatnot, but he is introvert. I mean, he's a man of his craft, right? Like he shows up early, he works, he does his interviews very well done, always respectful, but he's not going to make headlines ever, right or wrong. Puka Nacua is definitely the guy that's like the fun, boisterous, like new kid in town. And the fact that he can get Cooper Kupp to do these things, can get Stafford maybe to come out of his shell. Like they need more Puka Nacuas to be those type of off the field guys that can get people excited. So yeah, just all around, I think this is great for the brand.
Yeah, 100%. I think you really hit the nail on the head that's exactly what this team needs. And he's such a likable guy, and just I would even like give him the title of lovable. Like you just root for him when he's got this big smile on his face. He plays with such joy and buoyancy. And if you think about the other guys that have been in horns since the return to LA, there hasn't been like a big personality guy. I was thinking about it while you were talking. Yeah. Aaron Donald, he's a Pittsburgh guy, really. He wasn't spending much time out here in the offseason. And he's also quiet. He's not a verbal guy. He's not even a verbal locker room guy. Matthew Stafford, he's an old man like me. He's spending time with his family. He's bringing his kids to school, things like that. So you think of Jalen Ramsey was probably the biggest, but his personality was kind of dark in a way. Yeah. Like, I don't mean that as an insult at all, but he was like, he's an intense kind of personality, So you think about like the Shaq and Kobe times, that's, captured a lot of people's fans. So I think you're absolutely right. And it's great to see it. And, the more that, people get to see that LA is an awesome city, the more they're going to fall in love with these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see things like what Shohei Ohtani is doing with the Dodgers, right? Which is funny since he was just across town with the Angels, but obviously his brand has grown even more with the Dodgers now in LA. And so the Rams having an ambassador like that, and, Puka Nacua is definitely not at that level yet, but he's growing very quickly in just 1 year of play of being that. Cause the Rams really haven't had that. I mean, before it was maybe Todd Gurley, I guess, was probably the biggest before he left, which we'll actually talk about him later, ironically. But there isn't because usually it's the quarterback. That's usually the face, and Stafford, I would say, is the face. But he's got four kids, 4 girls. Like he's not out partying, doing things on the weeknights. Like he's doing his job and back with family, as he should be. I'm not saying he needs to be out there raging and stuff, showing off what's good, but it's super fun, and this is good for the brand.
One last point on it I'll make, which is we had a chance to interview Puka Nacua at Super Bowl Radio Row, and he talked about one of the things that Cooper Kupp taught him was, to make sure you're not staying up all night playing video games, which apparently is something that he liked to do. And one of the things that he said that he wanted to work on the most was his conditioning to get prepared for the season, for this upcoming sophomore season of his, which is directly from Cooper Kupp. One of Cooper Kupp's biggest pet peeves that we learned recently is players coming in not peak condition for training camp and OTAs and things like that.
Yeah.
So those are things that Cooper Kupp has taught him. Now Puka Nacua is trying to get him to loosen up and get out there and enjoy himself a little bit more, it looks like.
Yeah,
so,
it's a balance, right? It's a balance. Gotta have a balance. You got to put the work in, because obviously what really matters is wins on the field and performance.
This is a buddy cop movie in the making. Kupp and Nacua.
Kupp, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kupp runneth over with Kupp and Nacua. So yeah, fun times at crypto. All right, next on our Rams news dump truck. Speaking of Todd Gurley, it's nothing new here, but we kind of, there was a graphic circling around. We put an article out on. I was doing some research, kind of looking into it more. As of now, Todd Gurley, this was just insane to me, still ranks 7th in total touchdowns scored since 2015. Todd Gurley has not played since the 2020 season, going on 4 seasons now, not playing, and he is 7th. The only running backs above him are Christian McCaffrey, who just signed another massive extension, almost $19 million per year, Ezekiel Elliott, and Derrick Henry. Those are the only 3 running backs ahead of him. And the dude hasn't played in 4 years. Like, I don't think, and a lot of new Rams fans, and I don't mean this as an insult at all, it's just if you're a new Rams fan, you wouldn't know because he hasn't played in 4 years. I don't think a lot of people remember just how great Todd Gurley was. And, you never like to say what could have been or what should have, would have, but we'll say it. What could have been? Like, Todd Gurley could have been not just the greatest running back in Rams history. I mean, he played 2 more seasons. He probably would have locked that up, but could have potentially been one of the greatest running backs ever. I'm not going to say the greatest, but could have been one of the greatest on the pace he was on. Before I say more, because I've been rambling a lot this episode, just how wild is that to you? It's still 7th in the NFL in total touchdowns.
Yeah, and you look at the list, and there is not another person that's not currently active that's at the top of this list. Yeah. He stands alone up there, above Alvin Kamara, even above Travis Kelce, above DeAndre Hopkins. Melvin Gordon's still on this list. I didn't notice that. I didn't even know he was still active, but he's in the active list here.
Yeah, he was on the Chiefs or Ravens last year. He's kind of bounced around, so he's not real active, but he is technically active.
But you think about the conversation about running backs that's currently being had, and Christian McCaffrey kind of stands alone in that conversation. The reason he's getting paid so much money, and in this world where running backs aren't getting paid this kind of money, is because he's dual threat. And you think about that in terms of Todd Gurley, and he was the last Rams receiving running back to make a dent. And, you think about what's even more astounding about this statistic is the back half of his short career, he wasn't producing anything really.
Yeah.
This statistic here, these touchdowns were scored in such a short time frame that, you gotta question what could have been if he had a full career without this mysterious arthritic knee condition that, just ended such a brilliant career too soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, when you bring it in for context, so he's at 79 touchdowns. Well, is finished at 79 touchdowns. Played 4 seasons essentially I guess technically 5 total with the one with Atlanta, but 4 seasons with the Rams, right? 15, 16, 17. He played 5 seasons, but missed. I don't know. It's essentially close to 4 seasons when it breaks down with injuries and stuff. LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Famer. You could argue, I would say most people would probably put him for sure top 5 running backs all time, right? You probably put LT top 5, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In his best 4-year stretch, so like his historic, including 2006 when he had his 31 still record-setting season, most touchdowns ever in a season, 31 touchdowns. During that 4-year stretch, LT had 87 total touchdowns. Todd Gurley's 4 years with the Rams, 79 total touchdowns. I'm not a good mathematician, but only 8 off. Only 8 touchdowns less than Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. So this is where I wanted to turn this conversation. And then we'll move on to our next news dump. But in such a short time, do you think Todd Gurley did enough? It won't be early, but to eventually get the nod for the Hall of Fame?
I mean, you got to keep it in consideration. I feel like I'm not a Hall of Fameologist at all. I can't think of anybody that had kind of a short flash in the pan career like that. That, you know, you think about other guys that hung it up a bit early. You know, Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton probably left a year or two too early. But I'm
Payton
trying to think
was
of
a long one, actually.
What's that?
Payton actually was. I think he played like 16 seasons. He was actually.
Was that right? Oh wow,
yeah.
Way off.
Jim Brown for sure. Jim Brown
Yeah.
played like 8.
Not to bring up a sore subject in LA, but OJ Simpson also probably, you know, he had kind of a flash in the pan career. But I mean, what for that one in particular, he kind of made his splash by collecting a whole bunch of yards. But certainly not a dual threat kind of guy like Todd Gurley was.
Yeah, I think the closest comparison, I'm not even saying style of player, but when you just look at kind of the dominant career but short that I can think of is Terrell Davis, who is in the Hall of Fame.
There you
go.
go.
Terrell Davis essentially played 4 good years, just like Todd Gurley. He played 7 total years, 4 dominant ones. Now, the difference Davis had, he has 1 more All-Pro. Todd Gurley has 2 All-Pro seasons. Terrell Davis has 3. And Terrell Davis had a 2,000-yard season, which is like, you know, that's the standard for running backs. There's 6 total that have done it, 5 or 6 total that have ran for 2,000 yards. So I think that helped. And also, Terrell Davis's playoff career is insane. Like, he's literally one of the best playoff running backs ever. He's just dominant in the playoffs during those 4-year run where they were in the playoffs every year. Whereas Todd Gurley, I think, only played in like, what did he play in, like 3 playoff games total, something like that.
Well, yeah, because that mysterious injury really set in, you know, in that Super Bowl run.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have it right in front of me how many playoffs he played in, but I mean, even that Super Bowl run, he didn't play much. Remember, it was C.J. Anderson that was doing most of the work in those playoffs.
4 total games, 44 carries, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushing. That's his rushing statistics. Nothing really even passing. He had 8 career postseason receptions, so nothing doing there.
And Terrell Davis had 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns in just the playoffs. So, and a Super Bowl MVP to boot. So that would be the one thing holding back. Because if you look at regular season wise, you know, Terrell Davis finished with about 7,600 yards. Todd Gurley was like 5,500 yards, I believe. Or no, 6,000 yards. So, you know, 1,500 less. The touchdowns is, let's see here, 67 rushing touchdowns for Gurley, or, you know, 79 total, as we know. And for Davis, 65 total. So he has more touchdowns. So when you look at regular season, I mean, there's an argument you can make there for those 4 years of dominance, similar to Terrell Davis. The big knock would be not a 2,000-yard season, 1 less All-Pro, and not the same playoff production. But it's an interesting conversation.
It is an interesting conversation. Yeah, I think we've made a pretty good case.
There you go. But yeah, it always bums me out, and you know, you don't want to live with regrets ever. And you know, he's 29. He has so much life ahead of him. But it does, when you see a talent like that, and it didn't do anything. It wasn't like he was sabotaging himself, doing things off the field. It's just like an unlucky degenerative knee, and it's like, man, the guy could have been for sure the greatest. I mean, you look at the greatest. Who would you call Rams? I mean, the Rams running backs are the same when you think about it. Like, who would you? Obviously, the leading rusher is Steven Jackson, but I feel like probably Eric Dickerson is 1, Marshall Faulk's 2, and the Steven Jackson's 3, even though Jackson's the leading rusher. I don't know. I mean, how would you rank that hierarchy? And Todd Gurley probably 4.
I mean, I got to put, you know, the greatest show in turf running back there, the dual threat guy. I mean, it's just so appealing. You know, yeah. I think that's the one I got to go with. I think Eric Dickerson, obviously a great Ram, but again, just such a flash in the pan type of career, and it ended so kind of contentiously that I'll put him in second place. Steven Jackson, everybody loves, you know, and obviously like really the only bright spot of that chunk of time for kind of that St. Louis Rams. So, it's tough to knock in to get into that top three. So I think I'd put him 4.
Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
I think he's for sure 4 for me. It's got to be those 3, whatever order you want to do it. I'd probably put Dickerson 1 just because, I mean, in his time with the Rams, 2 1,800-yard rushing seasons, and obviously the record 2,100 yard, and that was in a 16-game season, obviously not the extra 17. So, I mean, that's a pretty wild 3 years. And even his one bad year in 85, 1,200 yards rushing, and then 87, 1,200. Never rushed for under 1,000 yards as a Ram. But I agree, Marshall Faulk, the do threat ability was just, I mean, the greatest show on turf. I mean, how do you compete with that? And then Steven Jackson was just the only thing going for them. Like, had he been on the greatest show on turf, who would have known? Maybe Steven Jackson would have been unbelievable, but he literally was the offense. So, all great Rams. And then Gurley, I think we can credit for bringing the Rams back to that, like, fun offensive prowess. Obviously, it was Sean McVay's offense when he hired, because, I mean, but his rookie year had a very good season under Fisher. And then his second year was the down year. And then the third year was when McVay got to town and he had his best year ever. So we'll credit Todd Gurley with bringing the Rams back in their move to LA.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Moving on this Rams news dump truck episode. And we can do this one fairly quick, but the defending offensive rookie of the year, CJ Stroud, LA kid from Rancho Cucamonga, recently on a podcast praising Matthew Stafford. It's always funny to see what players think of Stafford versus what national media perceives of Stafford. Players pretty much unanimously think he's one of the best to do it. Your thoughts, though? You wrote the article. Your thoughts on CJ Stroud's comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's high praise. It's not just, he was having a conversation with these 2 hosts of a podcast, not football players. One's a rapper and another one is a self-described disruptor and social media influencer. So
what does that even self-described disruptor?
I don't know. That's literally on their description and their website. And it takes a lot of gall to call yourself a disruptor. You have to have a lot of clout in the world to disrupt anything in this big old world of ours.
Is that on his LinkedIn too? Is that like his LinkedIn?
I didn't go that far.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
Gilly the King was the rapper. Anyway, they're having a conversation about the greatest quarterbacks now. CJ Stroud, out of the blue, he says Stafford he's a dog. That's what he referred to him as. And he says he's the only guy he watches. He'll watch Mahomes sometimes, he said, but Stafford is the guy. He was like, that no look stuff that I do, that comes from Stafford. And he says Stafford can beat you doing the same thing all game long. And he thinks that if Stafford had landed not with necessarily the Detroit Lions, but with a team like the Green Bay Packers, he specifically referenced Aaron Rodgers, he would have 3 to 4 total Super Bowl rings. So, I mean, obviously he's a great quarterback. He had a fantastic year, rookie of the year. We think maybe Puka Nacua, but he certainly made a case with a whole bunch of touchdowns and just 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
Nothing historic like Nacua did, but yeah, obviously he's quarterbacks don't do that. They don't have great rookie seasons and have just terrible rest of their career. So yeah, it's just incredible high praise. And the host of the podcast, they were grading on a different criteria, which was kind of like Super Bowl rings. And Stafford has 1. And I think from Stroud's perspective, what is he, 24, 25 years old, something like that?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
He's a kid when Stafford gets drafted.
Yeah.
And so he didn't have to live through those rough years where it's him and Megatron and nobody else on that team. So, he gets to see, Matthew Stafford at his finest, which is the hosts saw him struggle and trying to pull the, teams to 5-6 win seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just validates what we've been saying all along, right? So thank you, CJ Stroud, for validating us non-football players what we think. Because yeah, it's incredible to me that the slander that Matthew Stafford gets. I mean, football is the ultimate team sport. We talk about this all the time because there's so many factors at play to be great. And it doesn't even end with the 22 players on the field. I mean, it's coaching, it's decision making, it's the front office, it's weather, it's so many different things that go into it. And I'm not comparing him to Tom Brady, but when you look at like a Tom Brady, and I don't know if you watched that documentary Apple Plus did that was basically just a dark cloud over Bill Belichick, but it was a great documentary on it was called Dynasty, I think.
Yeah.
But like throughout the peak of the dynasty, obviously every team has their issues, and that's what the documentary went into, all the kind of interweavings of what went on behind the scenes and some of the stuff they worked through. But overall, like it was a very good situation to win in terms of roster construction, in terms of consistency, in terms of ownership, giving you whatever you want, yada, yada, yada. And so Tom Brady is great in his own right. And he obviously was the one that drove the ship or steered the ship, I should say, and led that. But when you look at what someone like Matthew Stafford, you go down the list of quarterbacks, what John Elway came into, with the Broncos back when he was a rookie, what, just go down the list of great quarterbacks that maybe didn't win as much. Jim Kelly with the Buffalo Bills, right? Like, there's so many factors at play. And if Stafford, and I hate sound like we knocking the Lions because, but they've turned things around. But anyone that wants to sit here now in today's day because of what the Lions are now and say that Stafford had like a good situation is living just in the current times and delusional of the past. Like he was drafted by a winless team, like one of the only in NFL history to not win a game. And yeah, everyone's like, well, he had Megatron. Okay, what else did he have? Like, you have one great receiver, amazing. What was the coaching like? What was the offensive scheme like? What was the front office like? What was the GM like? What was all these different factors? So maybe we stand too much on Stafford, but you just look at the arm talent, you look at the ability, you look at the leadership, you look at the love for his teammates. So it's good to see CJ Stroud, who grew up in LA, but Stafford was in Detroit when he was in LA. Jared Goff was quarterback here when he was in high school over at Rancho Cucamonga. But not even pointing to Mahomes, like you said, not Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford. It's pretty sweet, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really great, and I can't think of a quarterback that has further distance between the two opinions. That
yeah,
where like some people put him top 3, top 5. I definitely put him top 5. Definitely top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's some polls and rankings come out, and he's like
18.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like 16, 20. Like
how can it be that far off? I mean, you were looking at the criteria that the two hosts were coming from, and compare it to where CJ Stroud is coming from. CJ Stroud is looking at how the guy plays, how he moves the ball, how he commands the field, how he commands the pocket. And he's not really looking at it from a historical perspective of like, well, is he a good enough leader to lead a team to the Super Bowl? It's like, doesn't matter. It's about the game on the field right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question. Maybe that could be for a whole nother episode, I think, of like, is there any other quarterback that there's such a vast differing opinion of? Like, there's some that think he's, as you mentioned, top 5, top 10 even, and there's some that's like almost to 20. Like, it's insane. Like, I've seen some lists, not a lot, like, but I've seen some that put like a Trevor Lawrence ahead of Stafford. I mean, Gardner Minshew has better stats than Trevor Lawrence. If you really look into it, if people really want to do their research, Gardner Minshew has put up better numbers than Trevor Lawrence.
Sam Howell probably has.
Sam Howell absolutely probably has. And people will rank that above. I mean, it's wild. So anyway, we always get a little fired up. But hey, CJ Stroud, hats off to you. Great season. Always rooting for you, being an LA kid. Great, humble Christian kid. So good to see him having early success. Hopefully it continues for him down there in Houston. All right, final topic of the day of our Rams News Dump Truck episode of the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB Network. ESPN's FPI, Football Power Index, came out recently with their new rankings heading into the season. First off, I don't know if you want to call yourself now a self-described expert of FPI, a disruptor of FPI if you want to. but I think you know it better than most. So maybe just quickly describe for our listeners what the hell is Football Power Index.
I'm going to throw that back to you because I think you have a better grasp on it than
I
I do.
I don't think I do. I know they basically ESPN created this like algorithm data point entry where it pulls a ton of different data points and factors. Like it even includes like home and away. I think it includes weather. I was trying to read into it more because they did it for college too. And so they came up with their college rankings for USC and UCLA. But it's still like, it's basically just a giant data pool that pulls
Yeah.
all the data together and then spits out a ranking. It's
10,000 simulations based on each and every game that's played and adjusted based on that. So this is the preseason FPI. Everybody tries to boil down different sports into as few numbers as possible. There's, formerly Football Outsiders had DVOA. That's now with another outfit. You got PFF that tries to boil it down into one number. And then this is just another one of those. And
yeah,
they like to say it's highly accurate. So
yeah, I think it has been better than most just because it does
yeah.
pull so many, and there is the benefit of it updates after each week. So then it takes what happened in that game, that events, spits it all in together, spits it out within the new ranking going the next week. I think it is a good model. I think it's a good thing to like look at. It's obviously not the end all be all. You can't predict anything till it's played on the field. There is definitely flaws, as with any machine learning is. I think last year in college, ESPN's FPI still had Ohio State ranked first after they lost to Michigan, and Michigan was undefeated, ranked second. So there's a pretty obvious flaw in why there needs to be some human sentiment and reasoning in some actual rankings. But especially right now in June, I think these are probably the best way. You're taking this, or you're taking Skinny T and Ryan Dyrid's just rankings, and we'll just say whatever we want. So take it for what you want. But that being said, so they came out, quick breakdown. I know you wrote it, but I'll spit it out real quick. So it has the Rams ranked 13th in the NFL, FPI rating, whatever the hell that means, plus 0.9. Do you know what that means, really? FPI rating?
That's just the number it breaks down. The higher over 0 it is, the better. If you're in the negative, you're not doing too good.
Okay. So for context, the Rams plus 0.9, so it's positive. The first place team in the FPI rankings is the 49ers, and they're a plus 5.1. So it's a positive rating indicates team projected to win more than they lose. The win-loss projection is 8.8 wins to 8.2 wins. So we'll call it 8 wins. And Super Bowl odds, they have them very low, 1.8%. Playoff odds, 47.2%. So pretty close to 50-50. Thoughts on all those data points?
Yeah, and their win-loss projection is getting close to 9. It's 8.8. So, and I think that's pretty accurate. Can they win 10 games? Yeah, I think this team can definitely win 10 games. 11, yeah. I think we're getting a little bit over our skis, just looking at the schedule and the tough teams that they have to play. And so they're 13th. They're ranked 13th in the entire league, sixth in the NFC. So that's firmly in the playoff hunt, Yeah. So I think this is reasonable. I don't think it's egregious at 13. You look at some of the teams ahead of them, especially in the NFC, you got to start questioning Dallas Cowboys. Are we really thinking the Dallas Cowboys are going to be much better this year or even what they were last year? And the Philadelphia Eagles are also up there. I don't know what their season's going to look like. Green Bay Packers. Everybody's high on the Packers right now. I gotta see Jordan Love do it again.
Yep.
And so you look further in, you look a little bit deeper into this team's ratings. What they're trending up on, what they're doing well on is on the offensive side of the ball. 1.2% in the index, not a percentage, it's a score. So 1.2 grade. And then their defense is actually in the negative, just under 1, so 0.3 there. And I think that's accurate. I think this offense, they might be underrating the offense.
Yeah.
At this point, that's probably the only thing I don't think they've really taken into consideration is what it's going to look like with healthy Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, increased a better running game, better protection for Stafford along the offensive line. So yeah, you look at those things and I think this offense could be slightly better, but maybe they're overrating this defense. There are a lot of question marks on the defense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good. I think we need to do an episode here soon of like full like offense and defensive rankings, compare like where do the Rams offense rank in the whole league, and we'll compare it and break it down. So I think that'd be a good episode to do. But yeah, I think that's definitely they're underrating that. The defense, and I know fans hate to hear this, and I want to be clear. Like I think we're happy with what the Rams have done post free agency, especially in the draft and adding players. But when you're predicting, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're predicting, we're making things up, right? Like, yes, we understand you have to play the games in the field. Like, yes, we understand these models aren't perfect, or where we don't know everything. I mean, it's June, right? Like we're just like everyone else out there looking at things. But specifically on the defense, there's so much newness. You can't feasibly, with any sense of actual realism, predict that this defense will be better than last year. Can it happen? 1,000%. Do we hope it happens? 1,000%. But losing Aaron Donald, losing not just your defensive coordinator, but other coaches on that staff, Jimmy Lake being one of them, obviously. You didn't really address the front seven in free agency. You did that in the draft, but guess what? Those guys, we love the draft picks, specifically Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Think they're going to be awesome, but they have yet to play it down in the NFL. You've added some nice pieces on the back end. We know Darius Williams, what he can do potentially, but it's 3 years since
31.
He's been a Ram. Yeah, he's 31. Wrong side of 30. It's been years since he's been a Ram. Cameron Curl looked great, but first time as a Ram. Like, there's just so much unknown. You can't logically, if you take your fan hat off, you can't logically sit there and be like, yep, they did everything right on defense. Look at their draft. Look at this. They're going to be top defense and not miss a beat. Can they? 100%. Let's hope they do. But in June right now, you can't predict that. So I think it's fair to have a prediction of a low-ranked defense. The offense, I think, should be much higher because we know what they were and they've added better pieces. So yeah, FBI. Feels so nerdy.
You say dirty. It feels so dirty?
Well, I said nerdy, but then
no.
Nerdy dirty.
Yeah, definitely very nerdy. But in terms of like how it seeds the Rams, I think it's pretty accurate. I think they're going to be fighting for the 5, 6, 7 spot. But the Rams severely overachieved last year. I don't remember what their FPI was last year, but it's probably down where everybody was all the national media was kind of expecting that 5 to 6 win team. They doubled up on that 5 number team. So you can never put anything past Sean McVay. And with a fantastic offense and a defense that's good enough, they proved they could make the playoffs last year. So hope springs eternal on the Rams skinny.
That's right. And to be clear, if that over under win total stays at 8.5, I'm still hammering the over. I still think this is a 9-10 win team. So anyway, anything else? I think we made it through our Rams news dump truck episode. Anything else you want to add, Skinny T?
No, I think we covered a lot of good ground. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So well, great. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us. As always, appreciate you. We'll have a lot of good stuff coming up. As we mentioned, we'll do some offense and defensive rankings in the NFL. Plenty of content through the offseason. We'll keep it coming for you. Everything Rams related, or if you like any of the other LA football teams, USC, UCLA, or the Chargers, just head to LAFBnetwork.com. If you are listening to this on podcasts, Apple, Spotify, thank you. If not, search Rams Skinny. You can find us there. Or if you want to watch video form, head to YouTube. Rams LAFB is the YouTube channel, or everything can be found in totality, audio, video, written on LAFBnetwork.com. For the beautiful gentleman next to me, Skinny T, I am Ryan Dowd. Thank you all for hanging out. Talk to you in just a couple days. Everyone enjoy the week. Enjoy the weather. 80s. Let us know about the breweries we should check out. Talk to you on Thursday. Peace.